Alright boys, so the Lady Reines Case Files event is going to be getting its rerun on the JP version of the game, and I was like, you know what, might as well go ahead and do an event guide since we have a few days before this event comes out, and there is a little bit of stuff that you guys kind of got to know going into this event. Like, first of all, friendly reminder, there are actual raids in this event, right? And the raids are pretty decent. Well, there was a raid in the original version of the event. I'm hoping the rerun maybe brings like an extra raid or two because it was like a Barbados raid or something, so maybe they bring some of the other Demon Pillars and we get extra raids, because you guys know that I was kind of clamoring for extra raids when they did the Koyanskaya event. I'm like, hey man, like let's, get some extra raids, at a reasonable hour. I get it's not tailored for us NA players, but I would still like to do a couple runs, but that's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. If you guys enjoy daily FGO content, make sure you leave a like on the video and a subscribe to the channel, because I'm on that daily FGO content grind, and those little things that you can do greatly help out the channel on our road to 100k. If you want another free way to support the channel, I'm affiliated by all means with LD Emulator and Loot Cakes, which are both linked down in the description down below, which no, if you put your account on an emulator, it will not delete your account, because that's a common question I get about emulators. You will not get your account deleted or anything, you'll be fine. If you want bonus content, I stream every weekday on Twitch, so make sure you go, hit up the Twitch down there. I stream every weekday. You can check my schedule over there. And then finally, click that join button, become a channel member, and you can get some bonus content. Now, with all that being said, let's talk about this event. So, the first main thing that's probably going to be the thing that everybody cares about is the raids, unironically, because these raid drops are really good, and that's assuming they keep it the same, because if you look at the actual event page, they don't tell us what it is. I have to look at the US page. So this is the raid that we had last time, and as you guys can see, there's some notable things here, like dragon scales, you have hearts, pages, bones, dust, and QP. You get a decent bit of QP. Not as crazy as like the Apocrypha event or anything, but still a decent chunk, for all the other resources that you're getting, and for how easy the event is as well, because it's only 500k. If you have somebody like Ilya or Sanzo, you can easily get this done in like 1 or 2 hits. Not very hard. Make sure you get you're staying on top of the event so you can kind of get to this when it first opens, because if you're kind of slacking on the story, it's not all that hard to catch up, but as you guys know, it's a mission event. So if you slack for like a day or two and then they drop this, you're gonna have to do all like the weird annoying things. You're gonna have to do like, fight 50 machine people, or fight 50 people with divinity, and then fight like 10 rider servants, and it's just time you could be using to farm the actual raid, the actual good node, that you don't have to do as long as you just stay on top of the event. You're still farming the nodes. You maybe even just using your natural AP every day just to kind of stay on top of things. So that is like the first big main thing for the event, is that you want to try to stay on top of it, so when the raid opens up, you can take full advantage of said raid, because the drops in this are really good. And I am thinking that they might add a couple raids for the rerun. That's not confirmed, that's just kind of my speculation, because one raid with 50,000 or 50 million kills, my bad, that's not too bad, but considering the direction FGO's kind of been going, where they kind of want to push their game in a better direction, they might add more raids, but don't quote me on that, but it's just speculation that I have. Then aside from that, it's just literally a run-of-the-mill mission event. Like, literally just do the missions, stay on top of it. It's just the standard 1 to 100. You don't got like 3-point ladders or a billion missions to do. They're not any harder than the other missions that you have to do for other events. It's pretty run-of-the-mill. And then the only unfortunate thing is that as far as rewards are concerned for the event, it's a little lackluster. Like I've been talking about on stream, coincidentally enough, because I was mentioning that earlier, I've been talking about how I'm not really excited for this event, because outside of the raid, everything else is just kind of meh. Like, Gray as a free-to-play servant, she's fine enough. She's not absolutely groundbreaking or anything, but she is definitely useful. She's good, but especially if you've already played this event and you already have Gray, it's not super exciting, because you're not really getting anything new. And then when you look at like the free-to-play CE, it's just not super great. Just the arts and NP gen, well, those are both really good effects. If you have something like Magical Girl of Sapphire or like Cute Orangette, you're probably just going to use those over this CE. I get it's like good if maybe you don't have a better alternative, but it's just, I don't know, after some of the past couple of event CEs that we've been getting on the JP version specifically, a lot of the past few event CEs have been very, very strong, right? They've been like 50% charges with like a card buff and then like 1 or 2 additional really good effects. This just is a little lackluster, right? And it's just, you know, not super exciting, right? And then you look at the command codes, even these are not really like groundbreaking in any way. Like, this is fine. It's basically just 15% buster crit damage. Absolutely fine. I think that's probably the most useful one here, because this one gives you 15% against undead enemies. I don't think I would even put that on anybody, because that's kind of like an iffy thing for you to encounter, and it only applies to your face cards. Whereas this, you know, you can only crit on your face cards. You can't crit on your NP. So that's always going to be useful. If you could stick this on your NP card, it'd probably be a bit more useful, but it's like, okay, my quick card is going to do 15% extra damage to some zombie dude. Like, whoop-de-doo, man. Like, not super great. And then this kind of plays into like the Hokusai problem, because you're getting 15% NP damage for 1 turn when you attack with the card, but that means you have to put this card in front of your NP, and typically, especially if you're using like more of an art servant or something, you want those cards to follow the NP so you can refund as much NP as possible, and that you're not wasting a card in front of the others. Now, there's ways to get around it, obviously. Like, if you have an art servant, you can just put it on a buster card and just lead the Brave Chain with the buster card. Or if you have a buster servant, they really don't care if they go like buster card, then buster NP, then, you know, buster face card after that. Really don't care. I'm just saying it's a little annoying. Probably should be like maybe 1 hit instead of 1 turn. This is like actually one of those instances where if it just gave you 1 instance of NP damage, it'd be a bit better. So then you could, you know, just do a Brave Chain and then use it the next turn. But just a little annoying. Not a bad thing by any stretch of the imagination, because 15% NP damage might not sound like a lot, but keep in mind that that's kind of like a tactic skill that you could basically give to any servant. And do keep in mind that different buff types do multiply into each other. So let's say you have a servant that doesn't have an NP damage buff, but maybe they have a card buff plus a normal attack buff, or they have a card buff plus a special damage mod. That NP damage buff is going to multiply into those buffs, and it's going to give you a lot more damage than you might think, because it's going to multiply into those, because different buff types are not additive, they're multiplicative. So a little bit of use for this one. It just kind of depends on how you're going to use it. I don't think you'll really ever get any use out of this. This one, just generally pretty good. And then, I mean, unless you're really desperate, you're probably not going to get any use out of that. And then finally, probably the most interesting thing about the event is that since we're kind of getting a like the event's kind of like a pseudo recap of a lot of the events we've done. So you fight a lot of these, I guess, boss battles is what you could call them, but really none of them are really all that hard. I mean, they're all like very straightforward. Like this one, you have a 2 break bar ruler and a chicken, right? And it's like, they have like these little effects where it's like, oh man, like she's going to be getting attack and defense for 5 turns, but she's not all that beefy, and she's a ruler, which means you could probably just bring a friend Jalter and absolutely obliterate this Quetzalcoatl and have no trouble at all whatsoever. I mean, bring Chen Dingledong, that's a free-to-play servant you could bring to support said Jalter as well. Like, it's really not the most difficult thing. There's actually not even break bars on this one. Like, it's actually just stupid easy. This one, I remember, it might be a little annoying for some players, because if your box isn't super built up, it might be kind of hard for you to just get over how much HP this Altera has, on top of her also changing classes as well. That could be a little annoying, but at the very least, it's good that she goes from Saber to Archer, because, I mean, just imagine if she went from, like, Saber to Lancer, you brought your Archers, she changes to Lancer and just bodies your whole party. And then, I mean, keep in mind of, like, that she gives herself 1 tick of NP, but, I mean, you could just bring Merlin, or have Scotty's NP prepped, or, you know, have not Merlin, but Waver's NP prepped to go ahead and just take off a tick of her NP before you break her bar. Just stuff like that. I could see it being a little difficult for some newer players, because you basically got to get through 800,000 HP, which can be a lot to ask for some people. But if you're able to get around stuff like, say, the Cerberus fight at the very beginning of Lost Belt 5, like if you were able to get through that DPS test, you should have no problem getting through this. And plus, there's no weird event mechanics. Altera herself as a servant, a lot of her skills are very basic, just attack buffs and crit buffs. It's really easy to get around. It's not all that hard. Then you have, I mean, literally no break bars, dude. There's no break bars. You're absolutely fine. Maybe, like, See, I can't even say that this one is even all that hard because, bro, like, they get crit damage up, but they're all, like, really weak. So just bring a decently strong AoE servant, and they're all Zerks. I mean, these are casters, right? So I guess you could bring a rider, but literally just bring whoever you want, because even though these are casters, and let's say your best servant is Gilgamesh or Artoria, right? Like, let's say those are, like, your strongest servants that you have in your box. You're going to one-shot all these people anyway. You might even be able to one-shot them with some crits, especially with Gilgamesh with his, passive 11%. Might be able to do it with like some buster cards. Suffice to say, not that hard to get through them, and then they'll just literally two-shot this, right? Artoria might need a three-shot, but Gilgamesh can just get through, no problem. Again, not a break bar fight, literally pretty easy. Just bring like a decent AoE servant. Like, their types don't even really cover them all that well. Like, I guess these two kind of have some synergy, but this literally does nothing for their whole type synergy going on. Very easy. Very similar thing to this one right here, just minus having a break bar, so you're free to just go absolute Hamtaro on them. And since it's an AoE fight, that means you can go ahead and bring Space Ishtar. I mean, this ghost is pretty beefy, but I don't know, just if you're really struggling with it, throw like an Ilya or a friend Sanzo in the back or something, and they can more than likely solo this guy by themselves. As long as you take everybody else out, it's really not that difficult. It looks imposing, but again, you can just bring a really strong like friend support servant, or if you were lucky enough to farm something like Summer 3, Berserker Jalter is going to be your friend in a lot of these, because if you're having a stressful time getting through like this really beefy ghost, or say the Altera fight, having just a free NP5 Buster single target Berserker, right, that can just tear things apart really easily is going to come in super handy here. And then if you just happen to be someone that has like Herc or somebody as well, I mean, it's a wrap, because he'll just outstall these people and just beat them up. Or God forbid you have Kualter, right? God forbid you have him and you just literally solo every quest here, and it's not even all that big of a deal. This one could be a little bit annoying, just more or less because of her break bar mechanics. The fact that she gets Pierce Invincibility and she gets the increased NP damage, so she actually will hit really hard if you get tagged by her. I mean, you're probably going to get obliterated anyway, but you know what I'm saying. Like, that can be a little stressful to deal with, but it's not like she fully charges her NP gauge or anything, right? Doesn't do anything like that. This is from the Halloween event, so the giant Mecha Ellie thing is going to do like 500 damage to you every turn, but again, it's not like she's super beefy or anything. If you bring like a decent AoE or just Space Ishtar because she's a ruler, you can get through this one pretty easily. Like, Space Ishtar is probably the one I'd recommend the most for this because she just obliterates that. That's absolutely free. This one, again, you got two break bar enemies. We're getting a little bit more difficult here now, but keep in mind, these are all Lancers. That's a Zerk, so if you have just a decent AoE Saber, they will pretty much mop all of this up. And then you just throw some, like a friend King Hassan in the background. If you're really worried about it, he will just absolutely bend this Quetzalcoatl over and take her to Pound Town, okay? He will just obliterate her. So just bring like any, like, even if you have someone like Gawain, I'm trying not to throw out any like super crazy team comps. I'm trying to think of like common servants that people would have that are just easy to get around this. I mean, even Jason, right? I know Jason's kind of not super crazy, but I mean, he's decent enough. You could probably get through all of these guys and the Berserker with Jason with like some moderate support, and then just throw in like a friend King Hassan, a friend Ku Alter, or a friend like Hercules, and you can easily get through that. This one might be a little annoying because they're all Zerks and she's a little beefy, but you also got to remember they're Zerks, so they die pretty easily. So like literally, Space Ishtar, again, very strong for something like this, or just any good looping AoE servant that you happen to have on you. You can do this with Buster, but I find it really easy and just kind of fun to do with a decent quick looper or a decent arts looper. If you have someone like Nero Bride or Paracelsus to kind of properly support their looping ability, you can get through it pretty easily. Not all that difficult. This one, actually just a cakewalk. Like, the guy with the double break bar is a Berserker. Like, you literally just obliterate him. It's not all that hard. And then this is actually like the Big Mac Daddy quest. This is the one that's actually pretty hard, because you have El Malloy over here getting like some pretty high DR. But I did kind of do a mini guide in the last event guide I did for this one. Essentially, you want to just like beat up Alexander first, because Waver over here has this DR as long as he's on the field. So basically, you got to beat up Alexander first. That's why they gave him all the break bars to make him harder to beat. So then you beat him up, then you can mop up Waver. And 1v1ing Waver isn't really all that hard. Like, as we all know, Waver doesn't really have skills that make him a hard boss. Because for one, he has a non-damaging NP. And I mean, the most annoying thing is that maybe it'll stun your entire party. That could be a little annoying. So just bring somebody with debuff immunity, I guess. That could kind of negate that if you're really, really worried about that. But yeah. The kind of like annoying bit is that, say you wanted to bring someone like King Hassan or something to kind of like try to mop up Alexander really quickly. Waver's a caster over here. They got a little bit of synergy. Like this is like the whole big shebang challenge quest here. And I know I'm sounding a little apathetic for it, but it's because it's just really not that hard, right? Where it's just like the level of difficulty here is very superficial because they're like, oh man, he's really strong, so you have to beat Alexander first, but assassins are the only thing super effective against riders, but he's a caster. Oh, it's like this superficial problem. It's like, no, dude, like, you could, if you're really worried about that, you just bring like Leonidas and some taunters and then just let King Hassan beat up Alexander, and then just throw any halfway decent rider in the back. You could throw Quetzalcoatl or Ozymandias in the back, and they'll just solo, you know, Waver over here, and it'll not be all that hard. Like, it legitimately is not that hard. I guess if you're missing some of the pieces, it can be a little difficult. Maybe I'm trivializing it. Like, maybe some people that are just like, I just started the game and I don't have any of these units, maybe they'll find it a little difficult, but in reality, none of these are really all that hard, right? Like, you can get through, I think, all of these by just bringing a friend servant. Like, even this one down here, I am like 95% certain you could just bring a friend coup alter and just absolutely obliterate this. Especially because when you're bringing friend servants, you can just look for an NP5 one and just make your life a lot easier. And if you can't find an NP5 friend servant and you really need it to solo all this stuff, the Discord down in the description down below, there are plenty of people, you know, that we friend people whenever we can. We try to help them out with these challenge quests. Feel free to join the Discord if you feel like you really need help. Like, if you're really, I don't know, you're struggling with this fight right here, you're like, dude, I can't do it, man. The Lancer and Caster combo is too much for me. I can't get around it. And then feel free to join the Discord and we'll try to help you build a team comp to get around it. Like, I'm laughing, but it's just like, I know there'll be that one person. I know I'll get a ping, you know, in a few days, someone being like, bro, the Caster Berserker lineup was too much for me to handle. I can't do it. So I know that's going to happen, but legitimately, very straightforward event. I mean, this is fun to live through, but it's nothing super insanely special. If this is your first time going through it, make sure you go ahead and you go get Gray. Get some of the free-to-play stuff. The command codes, again, as I'm saying, pretty decent. Make sure you stay on top of the ball. At least use your natural AP every single day to make sure that you can do the raids when they come out, because you definitely want to take advantage of that. That's pretty much going to be the main attraction for the event, is that it's bringing a raid, potentially more, because it is a rerun, and they do sometimes change things. So, you know, fingers crossed we get more raids. But, yeah, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And, yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace, late, guys.